I like people who are hungry, and people who are hungry not for titles, because I feel like that's such a fluid thing. It doesn't mean anything. I think in a workplace we need to think about positioning or thinking about ourselves as packages, right? Then people will leave varsity still unemployable, but at least they passed. Because for them now, the government, it's just for stats, but then for people, it's not like somewhere, it's not a mark that could take you to whatever your next is.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Unplugged with Khaya. And this is a podcast where we discuss all topics regarding tech and business. And today we are going to speak about professionals entering the workspace. I am joined here by Ms. Siyanda Yabo. She works as a COO and she leads in corporate and she manages a lot of people. So she's going to be sharing her insights on what she thinks about young professionals entering the workspace. Hello, Ms. Siyanda.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Why do you think you are more suited to speak about young professionals entering the workspace?
I'm first going to lead because I'm a human, right? Because I think all lived experiences are valid in the workplace. So I think because I've been able to build my career over the last 10 years, I think I might have some insight into the workspace for young professionals trying to enter.
Nice, so nice. You definitely do have some insights to share with us. Firstly, let's talk about the corporate space. What's your experience about the whole idea of being in corporate and working as a professional?
Okay, so I'm going to first give a background just around my professional journey. So I started in sales, I guess, but like shops, I guess. So I think everything, like all life journeys have their own lessons. So starting in sales teaches you a lot about like getting along with people, just like people from all different backgrounds. And from there, I moved on to I suppose it's corporate, but we worked in visa spaces. So we dealt with a lot of international people looking to travel. And so that taught me a lot of like working with detail and just like looking at things in the bigger picture outside of just looking at one document and thinking that's all it plays with. And then from there, I moved to the Western Cape government, where I worked for a project office where we run projects in low and no fee income schools. And I think that really taught me about thinking about things bigger than yourself, because I worked in the NGO space, and just working with different stakeholders, from the NGOs themselves to the learners to the people in the communities that we serve. And now I'm in the outsourcing space, and that has its own complexities, but I think having worked the different places I've worked, it's helped bridge and kind of package my persona in a workplace, so that I am able to work with people from different demographics, and that I am able to work in a fast-paced environment, also an environment that's always forever changing. I think that's quite useful.
Nice. You speak about different demographics.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it to people to expect to meet different types of people in a workspace?
It's one of the most important things, solely because you will never work with people that are like you or that come from where you come from. For myself, example, I'm from Cape Town. So Cape Town is not only Xhosa people, but it's predominantly Xhosa people. And so moving to Joburg, I think I had my own culture shock, which is like silly in a country with 11 languages. But I did have my own culture shock being around non-Xhosas, people who don't understand things the way I understand them. And that's literally just because of the nuances of a language and how people grow up. And so I think when you're able to see people in the context of where they come from, you're able to have languaging that will allow them to meet you where you're at. Because I think if you have conversations and you don't contextualize who you're talking to, you may speak over people, or you may speak in a way that doesn't bring fruit to the conversation that you're having.
Nice. I like that a lot, because it's important for us as young people to know that we're not always gonna meet like people, like you're saying. So I have a question here, which is, do you think young people are prepared for the workspace?
No, I don't think, just in general. I mean, and I mean, this is a very like, I don't know is the real answer, just because the nature of work has changed. I feel like I think, and I can't speak for young people because I'm not a young person, unfortunately. But I'm not a young person. And so I come from a generation where working hard was the epitome of a work environment. But I think the younger generation is looking for a workplace balance. And I think a lot of young people are coming into the workspace already thinking about being entrepreneurs. And so that makes someone very hard to train because they're already thinking about their exit. Unless obviously it's someone who's looking to work for an X amount of years, maybe 10 years, so that they can build up their rapport and build up their network and build up their soft skills in order to then go into working independently. So I think they may be ready, but I don't know if young people now are teachable in the sense that people already think they come with the know-how because of the internet, because of AI, but there are things that the internet can't teach you, and only actually being in the business space will teach you.
Nice, I like that. So we speak about the business space. As someone who works in manager roles and like as a COO, which type of people are you looking for or looking towards working with?
I like people who are hungry, and people who are hungry not for titles, because I feel like that's such a fluid thing. It doesn't mean anything, because you could be, I don't know, you could be the CEO and your daily day-to-day work is admin work, you know? Titles in the bigger space mean nothing. So I like people who are hungry to learn, hungry to work, because no one wants to do this, but you want the money, so do the job. And it's unfortunate, but the two things work hand in hand. And I think because people are motivated by money, like, if you work hard, you can always negotiate more money. And so I feel like the business space is a play on kind of like, it's a dance around that, you know, like a business has something to offer you, which is money, and you have something to offer the business, which is whatever skills you're coming in with. So I think that's a very important thing to understand in the workplace, so that also you don't allow people in the workplace to overstep boundaries. And so it also allows you to also remember what your goal is here. Because I think if you're coming in just for the money, you're not going to have a goal. So every day is going to be a hard day for you, because 8 hours is a long time to be in the same place. And so if you don't have something of value that you feel like you're bringing to the table, you will not set yourself up the right way.
Nice, I like that very much, actually. You speak a lot about boundaries, which is something I'm learning in the workspace about having boundaries with people you're working with, certain topics to avoid, and all those things. So as people who are in manager roles, right, what culture do you guys, or how do you build a certain culture in the workforce? Do you actively build it, or do you hope your employees know what to do already?
We actively build it, right? But nothing happens without the people. And so an organization can have systems in place and things in place, but if people don't buy into the vision, it's just the thing in the system that we're doing every day, but no one really cares for. An organization doesn't work without the people. And I mean, organizations like to forget that, because capitalism is capitalism. People are here to make money. And so when you don't see the heart of the people that are doing the work, that's where you lose things. And so if you're not intentional around building a culture in the organization, and you think that it'll just form, then it's not going to form, because like I said, people don't come from the same places. And so an organization culture exists so that people know what we expect in the space. And so if we are able to say and package the organizational culture in a way that people know that in this space, whether you're here for 8 hours or 5 hours, because some people are hybrid, you are in this space, and we expect a certain level of behavior when you're dealing with your colleagues, when you're dealing with yourself, how you present yourself in a workplace. And I think those things are very important, especially in a time where we are all expressive, and I think the hybrid model also teaches people like different kind of boundaries, because we all really want to, say our thing for what you stand for, what's important to me. But in the workplace, it's not only about you, it's about everybody else who exists in the space.
Do you feel young people's mindsets was maybe influenced by social media in any way?
1,000%. I think I grew up outside. I grew up touching trees, and I feel like the younger generation doesn't, and I can't speak for everyone, so I am going to generalize, but the younger generation is taught a lot by the internet, because the first thing, if you hear something new, you'll go check what are the people saying, and you're checking what the people are saying, but you're not checking like, is this a fact? Is this also what like the internet or the websites are saying, etc. And so I feel like when it can make people out of touch, because people are not the same. So if you're going on social media, you're most likely getting views from so many different demographics, America, wherever. And what works culturally there for them might not work here, and it's not transferable. And so I feel if people don't, I think young people might not see the value in connecting with people in real life, and I think that's where they're losing their essence.
Connections.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Because I also do agree that we live too much on our devices, and what happens in America, for example, might not be necessarily what's happening in South Africa. And from what we see on social media is a lot of remote work, it's a lot of hybrid work. Could you maybe hit us with like a touch of reality in terms of like remote work and hybrid work in South Africa?
It's possible, you know. And I suppose this is, and I think we have to understand that like times are shifting and things changed in real time, but organizations are capitalists. And so in order for organizations to make money, they have to spend money. And so as an organization, if I'm paying rent where I'm paying, I expect my staff to come to where I'm at. It doesn't make sense for me to be paying rates and to be paying rent and to be paying Wi-Fi and all of these things, but people want to work from home. So I think it has its value. It has its value in having the people in the office and people working in the same times. And I also feel like it also helps with allowing people to have work-life balances, because I can only speak for myself, but I can speak like when, I think during COVID, I used to work what felt like 24-hour days, because you wake up, your laptop's here, you go to bed, your laptop's here. So you're always in the space, or always your brain is always switched on in order to work. And so there is value in hybrid models. There are industries I 1,000% feel would rather serve better in a hybrid model or in a fully remote. Things that are very creative, like people in marketing, people in graphic design. I feel like because an office space won't allow you to imagine exciting things, you do need to be in a space that's inspiring. People in the tech space do say they work better when they're remote, just because obviously things are crazy and they're doing multiple things at the same time. But I also know that people condition their minds. And so if you know that you only have 8 hours to do something, you will do it in the 8 hours that you do. But if you know that you could take work home, then you're not going to prioritize the things that might need to be prioritized in that 8 hour of work day. And so I think it all really boils down to time management. I don't necessarily think it's about where you are physically, but I do understand why different people and organizations see the different need points for either.
Nice. That's very interesting. You speak about time management, which is something that all professionals need to have. What other soft skills would you say are necessary to have when entering or aspiring to enter the workforce?
Okay. So definitely time management, definitely communication. And I think communication works hand in hand with the boundaries, because I think when you are, I think in a workplace we need to think about positioning or thinking about ourselves as packages, right? Because at the end of the day, people are still looking at you even once you're in the workplace. They're looking to see, are you someone I'm looking to continue to have here or not, right? And so I think we need to think about that in terms of, like with communication, there's boundaries in that. You can't say like, you can, but like it doesn't serve you anything to say I'm taking off leave because my boyfriend's taking me on a trip to whatever. In fact, I don't care. But like, now we need to care because you've told me about it. And so now you are crossing boundaries into, now I'm going to ask you personal things. I'm going to ask follow-up questions. Because now I don't know, like, are you sharing with me so that we can have a personalized relationship? But I think if you don't manage that boundary and that communication well in the workplace, it could set you up in a way that you don't like, because people are always looking to do better than you. So you might be sharing with me just to share, but I want your job. So I'm going to use that against me, you know? So definitely communication, definitely time management, and the others are really specific to like your role, right? I think having an operational overview of things is very important in a workplace. I think when you work in silos, you forget that the work that you do has impact on the bigger operations of the organization. So I think thinking about things in that light also are very important in a workplace. And that's a soft skill because your life teaches you that. And I think lots of like soft skills are just like transferable skills, because I think I also work in the recruitment space. So I think people fail to connect the dots in knowing that maybe when you're applying for something, you don't necessarily have experience in that particular thing, but the rounds of experiences that you have, they've built up soft skills within you that you could bring forward in a particular role. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer, but I'm going with it.
That's a good answer, actually. And we are all learning a lot, actually, from what you're saying. Could you also share some insights on the whole work-life balance thing? Do you think it's real? What does it actually mean to have a work-life balance? Is it only work when you in your 20s? Like, what's the whole thing about work-life balance?
I wish I knew. I don't have work-life balance. I work all the time.
Wow.
But I think, like I said, it's just different generations. I think my generation was like taught to work, and the more you work, the better your life. And I don't know what we were taught, but I believed it.
Do you
And
still
so
think that works actually?
it doesn't. I think you become exhausted, and also like your life is not your job. And I think we were taught that in order to have a life, you have to have a really good job. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the more you move up, not unfortunately, but the more you move up in rankings, the more work that comes with it. And so if you already foundationally don't have the boundaries to instill a work-life balance, you might lose it the more you work yourself up. And so I feel like a work-life balance allows you, like in theory, right? If in theory people practice it, in practice, that could look like being able to clock out after your 8-day shift and giving yourself brain power to then dream about other things that maybe you want to do, or being able to pour into your friendships, because who wants to live for the weekend? It's 3 days. You blink, it's Sunday. So work-life balance is being able to fill your time and your life with things that are of meaning. And I mean, I would love for your job to be of meaning. My job for me is of meaning. And so I feel very fulfilled in my work, but I also want to be able to feel fulfilled in my other spaces where I'm able to show up for my friends, and I'm able to show up for my family, and I'm able to think about, like, I don't want to be employed forever. So like, what does that look like in real time? And you can only plan those things out and actually execute those things if you do have work balance.
So having a work-life balance is an actual thing, and it's very important.
Yeah.
Keeps us healthy, one of the things. Could you also just tell me more about your experiences in terms of working with people or managing people in a workspace? Do you think some young people or some people have an attitude at the workplace, or do you feel like they're always ready to work?
I can't speak about it in a general space, I will say. What I can generalize is being close to your home place. I feel like, and I can't say it's the young people, because I've seen it in the older demographic as well. And I think when people feel like they have something to fall back on, they are very wishy-washy with how they show up in their workplace. And so it's I guess easier for the younger people to do it, because maybe you're still living at your mother's house and your parents are still paying for your bills. And so this job is just a job because you're entering the workplace, but like it doesn't really like add value to your life in its current form. And so you don't really care how you're showing up, because you're not thinking about the longevity of it. And so I found that that's easier when you are working in a place where you're from. I can speak for myself. When I was working in Cape Town, not that I didn't care, but I can imagine that I was more lax in the things that I allowed to not go right in the workplace, or things, or like if I was falling short, I felt like I had more time to kind of fix that. However, having moved to Joburg, like I don't like to mess up at work, because I moved here for the job. So if I fail, I'm not just like walking to my mom's house. I'm hiring a truck, I'm getting movers, I'm doing a whole big shebang to move back, So I think there's a psychology in that, just around being where it's comfortable. I think comfortability does breed laziness, and I don't think that's a generational thing. I don't think it only sits with young people.
Nice. Yeah, that's very heavy. Comfort zones are not very good in a workspace. So us as young people, we are growing, or we are entering the workforce in the age of AI. AI is everywhere now. AI is in our phones, our laptops. And what I'm seeing is it's emerging inside the workspace also. People are using AI to complete their tasks at work and just for their everyday work. What do you guys feel about people using AI to do their work? Are you for it? Are you against it? Doesn't really matter as long as you see the results. What's your opinion on that?
If you're smart, you're smart. I think computers can't do everything for us, right? And so you have to put in the inputs to get a certain level of detail. And you have to ask a follow-up question of a particular caliber to get the substance of what you're trying to get. So I think it's helpful if people are using it in that way. It's not helpful if you just plug and playing and you're putting all the information in there and then it's generating it. Then I could just get the AI to do it. Then I don't need you as the input, you know? So I don't think it's a bad thing. I feel like it can make people quite efficient, but I think if people rely solely on it, they'll forget how to use their brains. And you don't want, those are soft skills that you don't want to lose. Because imagine like the internet goes offline for a day. Are you telling me no one in the organization is going to be able to work? Not sustainable.
Do you think AI is actually replacing more and more employees?
I guess it depends on the field. I guess it depends on the field, because I would think in the tech space it could alleviate a lot of pressures. But like I said, a lot of things need human intervention. I mean, human interaction, right? Because you need to also test it and better things and figure out, does it work for a human? Because a computer is a sequence of logics. Mm-hmm. And so human are not always logical in practicality. So I think they can work hand in hand. I don't absolutely think they could work in isolation of each other.
Recently, Amazon had layoffs and replaced most of their tech people with AI or actually workers. And Microsoft also reported that 30% of their code is now written by AI. Does that scare or maybe intrigue you in any way? Do you feel like maybe we should actually be involving AI more into our workspaces?
Yes and no. Like, I mean, great that they can, right? But like, for example, I was watching a TikTok of this guy. His entire team is AI and he's the only human. And so he was getting feedback from his AI manager, and like the feedback was a particular way, and it lacked certain nuances in human interaction, because you can say something, but if you don't say it with a particular tonality, then it can come across a different way, right? And so there's that. But I mean, in the tech space, if it's making the tech more efficient, like, I'm sorry to the humans, hey, like,
you gotta move with the times.
Yeah, be smarter, work harder.
Nice. And do you feel like the older generation and the new generation, do they clash in any way in the workspace?
What's older?
So anything above 35 is old, I think.
Okay.
Or is not considered as youth anymore.
Okay, I'm close to that. Interesting. Okay. Well, I don't know what I'm 32. So what? 3 years. I think maybe 35 and up might have a harder challenge. But I think like maybe to like mid-40s, we are a bit tech savvy. We have some technological know-how. So I feel like it could be easier with that age group. But maybe perhaps the older ones, they might feel that it is like trying to take their jobs or whatever. But I feel, one, I don't necessarily think it's on the younger generation to teach older people how to get with the times. I feel like we are all individuals, and in order to show up in society as well-rounded people, we need to figure out where we're lacking and kind of plug and play that. So I feel like it could be bad for the older generation if they don't come with the times and figure out where they're lacking, so they can work in unison with the younger generation, because it's an organization. You're not here for a solo project. You're here to represent the organization, and we need to make use of whatever skill sets people have in the team.
True. So I've always had this idea that maybe there's some sort of envy for the older generation whenever they see young people enter. Do you think that's a real thing? Like, if I see someone 10 years younger than me doing everything I can do way faster and way better than me, do you think that maybe leads to like bad culture, maybe working with different age groups? How is that actually?
I think it's just jealousy. What can you do with human nature, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do with that except like understand that it exists and figure out how to move in those spaces. Because unfortunately, sometimes being in community with people does highlight an inadequacy in you. And so it's up to you as the person who sees that there's a lack within you to figure out what you want to do about that. I don't think it's fair to then put all of that on the other person, and now people must walk around on eggshells. If you feel like there's something you're lacking, then maybe you figure out like, how do I like learn something or gain new knowledge in order to fill that. But also, like, I mean, shout out to the youngins, man. Like, if people are coming into the workplace and they have whatever it takes in order to make the role really work, and it works for them, shout out to them.
Nice, I like that very much. So to bring it back to like a South African context, right? South Africa is a country with a lot of youth unemployment. And there's different reasons to why that is happening. There's a lot of people saying that it's a skills shortage. There's a lot of people saying that there's actually no opportunities in the job market right now. And could you just maybe like share your opinion on like South Africa, like the youth unemployment rate is so high, it's more than any other country. Like, I think we're sitting on 30-something%, or just above 60-something%. Yeah, with the youth and like just unemployment is a big thing.
I don't think it's a skill set thing. I feel like people are unemployed and they have like PhDs, like people are smart. And so I don't know if it's I think it's just, I don't know what the issue is. Like, maybe it's the economy, like companies aren't making enough revenue in order to hire more people. I think the state of our economy sucks. And so employers are also always trying to see where can they maximize in order for them not to pay 1 million people. Because what we're finding now in the workplace is that people are overworked because they're holding so many things. But they're not being paid for like 3 positions if they're holding 3 positions, and there are people sitting at home who don't have jobs. So I think that's the one thing. But also I think there's something just like with the world, because we work in an international space, and so there's also a lot of unemployment on that side. But theirs is different because they're looking for, I guess, quote unquote, cheaper labor because of the exchange rate. Then they look to get remote workers and people from other different countries, and so it's a lot of different things, but I do say it sits a lot with our government, our current state of employability, because a lot of things also speak to a lot of things. They decrease the requirements to pass matric, and then they increase the requirements to get into varsity, and like those things don't speak to each other, and so then people will leave varsity still unemployable, but at least they passed, because for them now, the government, it's just for stats, but then for people, it's not like somewhere, it's not a mark that could take you to whatever your next is.
I like that. Social media is becoming a work for most people. We have influencers on YouTube, Instagram, and all these other platforms, and more and more people are seeing that as their futures. People are seeing a future in such platforms such as YouTube and other platforms. What do you think people who are more on the creative side and people who are more influencers could use any of the skills required in like the corporate space?
100%. Like, I know a lot of people who've transitioned from corporate to influencer work, and what they've taken from that is that grit, is the long hours, is the time management, because influencer work is being an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur is working 24 hours back to back, no days off, no public holidays. So that in itself takes a level of grit, a level of what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with the R. But a level of that too. And so I feel like skills are very transferable, I do think there's a big, long future for influencer work, because we are in the beginning phase, I guess, of just like how integral the internet is in everyday work and in everyday lives. So I feel like the more time goes, the more things are going to adapt to that. I mean, just think like you go to a restaurant, everyone's on a phone. Everyone, like from mother to child, everyone's on some kind of technological device. So there's a lot of space for that, because I mean, I understand marketing. You're always in people's faces. You don't have to wait for someone to buy a magazine. It's just easier to always be on someone's screen. So there's a lot of space for that. But I think the youth shouldn't only look to that. But I can also only say that as a theory, because the practicality is people aren't being employed, and so people need to eat, and so where else can you or at least try find a broad audience to potentially buy whatever your product you're having. So
Yeah, so what you just said is actually proof that the skills required to be and the mindset required to be in the corporate space can be used anywhere else, can be used outside the corporates, in our daily lives, in when you pursuing your influencer journey or whatever that is about. So this what we were speaking about is basically for everyone at home. Is there anything maybe you want to say before we end off the thing?
I'll just say, like, as a youth, like, I think the most important thing to take with you is just being yourself. And that may sound like such silly advice, but as you grow in life, you will figure out that there are things that maybe you've just carried on doing because you've been doing them for so long. Maybe it was the crowd you were hanging out with or whatever. But stay yourself, and if something is no longer serving you, like, take it off the list, and that goes for people as well. Sometimes it's hard to let go of people that have been with you through so many seasons, but if you are in a place where you are looking towards your future and the other plans that you have for your life, it's unfortunate when you can't take people with, but sometimes people can't go with, and that's the reality.
Nice. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This is Unplugged with Khaya, and today we were discussing young professionals entering the workforce. Thank you.